So let me ask you this. Why is it that no matter how much money most people make, they still feel broke at the end of the month? I used to wonder the same thing when I was starting out, and trust me, I made a lot of the same mistakes that are keeping people stuck today. That's why in this video, I'm going to break down the one habit you absolutely need to stop in 2025 if you don't want to stay broke. By the end, you'll know exactly what's been holding you back and what you can do differently to finally build real wealth. Most people don't realize just how much money quietly slips through their fingers every single month. It's not the big purchases that usually do the most damage. It's the hidden money leaks that add up over time and slowly drain wealth without you even noticing. Think about subscriptions you signed up for years ago and never use anymore, fees your bank charges that you never question, or even the small daily habits like buying overpriced coffee or paying for convenience instead of learning to manage on your own. On the surface, these things seem harmless because they're just a few dollars here and there. But when you add them up over a year or 5 years, you start to see why so many people feel like they're working hard yet never actually getting ahead. The problem is compounded by the fact that most people don't track their spending closely, so these leaks remain invisible until it's too late, leaving them in a position where they feel like they're always one step behind financially. The solution is surprisingly simple but requires discipline and awareness. You need to become hyper-aware of where every dollar is going and plug those leaks before they become financial sinkholes. Start by going through your bank statements line by line for the past 3 months. You'll almost always find recurring charges that don't serve you anymore. Cancel subscriptions that you don't use regularly, negotiate bills like your internet or phone plan, and eliminate fees by switching to accounts that don't charge you for basic services. Beyond that, it's about developing the habit of asking yourself whether a purchase adds real value to your life or if it's just an impulsive decision. If it doesn't provide long-term benefit or genuine satisfaction, cut it. By plugging these leaks, not only do you save money, but you also build the mindset of respecting your money and treating it like a tool for growth rather than something to casually give away. Over time, these small corrections create a compounding effect, freeing up hundreds or even thousands of dollars a year that can be redirected towards savings, investments, or debt repayment. For example, let's say someone has 3 different streaming subscriptions, each costing $15 a month, along with a gym membership at $50 that they haven't used in months. That's already $95 every single month wasted, or $140 in a year. Add in bank fees of $10 a month and the occasional $5 coffee run 4 times a week, and suddenly you're looking at over $3 a year just evaporating on things that don't add any real value. Now imagine if instead of letting that money leak out, they took the same $30 and invested it into an index fund earning a modest 8% return. In 10 years, that invisible money leak would have grown into nearly $500. In 20 years, it would be over $14,000. That's the hidden cost of ignoring small leaks. They don't just take away money today, they rob you of compounded growth tomorrow. This is why the people who seem to always struggle with money aren't necessarily bad at earning it, they're bad at protecting it. By fixing these leaks, you shift from always wondering where your money went to knowing exactly how it's working for you. One of the biggest reasons people stay broke, even when they start making more money, is lifestyle inflation. The problem is simple: as income rises, so do expenses, and instead of using that increase in earnings to build wealth, most people unconsciously upgrade their lifestyle. A higher salary suddenly justifies a more expensive car, a bigger apartment, nights out at restaurants that were once considered a luxury, or vacations that stretch way beyond their budget. On the surface, these upgrades feel like a reward for working hard, but in reality, they create a trap where no matter how much you earn, you never feel financially secure. This is why you'll often see someone making $40,000 a year struggling with bills, and someone making $150,000 a year also struggling with bills. It's not about the amount of money coming in, it's about the choices being made as that money flows out. Lifestyle inflation is dangerous because it disguises itself as progress, when in truth it's holding you in the same place financially, only with shinier possessions and higher monthly commitments. The solution lies in intentionally separating the way you live from the amount of money you earn. Instead of automatically upgrading your lifestyle as your income grows, you lock in a baseline lifestyle that allows you to live comfortably but modestly, and you commit to funneling all increases in income into savings, investments, or debt repayment. For example, if you get a $500 raise each month instead of upgrading to a luxury apartment, you take that $500 and automate it into an investment account or high yield savings. This not only accelerates wealth building, but also creates financial resilience because your lifestyle doesn't depend on every extra dollar you earn. The key is to recognize that happiness and fulfillment don't come from buying bigger and better things every time your paycheck grows. In fact, studies consistently show that after a certain level of comfort is met, more spending doesn't lead to more happiness. By controlling lifestyle inflation, you buy yourself freedom and peace of mind instead of a constant cycle of working harder just to maintain an inflated standard of living. For example, consider two people who both receive a $10,000 raise. Person A decides to celebrate by leasing a brand new car with a $500 monthly payment and upgrading to a larger apartment with $700 higher rent. Suddenly, their $10,000 raise is gone before it even hits their account, and their financial stress stays the same, if not worse. Person B, on the other hand, keeps driving their older, paid-off car and stays in the same apartment, choosing instead to invest the $10,000. If that investment earns an average of 8% per year in 10 years, that one decision turns into over $21,000. In 20 years, it's worth nearly $47,000. The difference isn't in how much they earned, but in how they chose to use the extra income. Lifestyle inflation silently robs Person A of financial growth, while Person B steadily builds wealth and buys financial independence. This simple shift of resisting the urge to upgrade every time your income rises is what separates people who are constantly broke from those who eventually achieve financial freedom. The most dangerous part about staying broke isn't just the lack of money itself. It's the mindset people carry about money that locks them into a cycle of financial struggle. The problem begins when people view money as something temporary, something that's meant to be spent as soon as it's earned rather than treated as a tool to create more opportunities. This mindset usually comes from habits picked up early in life, seeing family members live paycheck to paycheck, or believing that debt and financial stress are just a normal part of adulthood. When you constantly think of money as a short-term resource, you never build the discipline to plan for the future, which is why so many people end up with no savings, no investments, and no emergency fund. Worse, this mindset creates a psychological loop. The more broke you feel, the more you justify spending on instant gratification to feel better, which leaves you even more broke, repeating the cycle over and over again. This is why so many people, no matter how much they earn, always find themselves wondering why their bank account is empty at the end of the month. The solution begins with reprogramming how you think about money. Instead of seeing it as something fleeting, you start treating it like a tool that can work for you even when you're not working. The first step is shifting from a consumer mindset to an investor mindset. Every dollar you earn has two choices. Either it buys you something that disappears quickly, or it buys you freedom in the future. By practicing delayed gratification and prioritizing investments, you gradually train your brain to see money not as something to spend, but as something to grow. This doesn't mean never enjoying life, but it does mean setting rules for yourself, like paying yourself first by investing or saving before spending on non-essentials. Over time, this builds financial confidence because you're no longer depending on the next paycheck to cover basic needs. Instead, you have assets working behind the scenes. Another part of changing this mindset is surrounding yourself with people who think differently about money, whether through books, mentors, or content that challenges your assumptions. When you constantly expose yourself to ideas of building wealth and financial independence, your own habits start to align with that vision. For example, think of two people who both make $60,000 a year. Person sees money as something to spend for comfort right now. They buy the latest phone on credit, go out every weekend, and make minimum payments on their debt, assuming they'll figure out savings later. 5 years down the road, they're still living paycheck to paycheck with thousands of dollars in credit card debt and nothing invested. Person B, on the other hand, shifts their mindset early. Instead of upgrading their lifestyle, they start by automatically investing $500 a month into index funds. They still enjoy life but set limits on unnecessary spending, choosing to value long-term freedom over instant gratification. After 5 years, person B has invested $30,000, and with growth, that money is closer to $37,000. Person A feels broke and stressed, while person B feels empowered because their money is working for them. The difference isn't intelligence or opportunity, it's mindset. By viewing money as a tool and training yourself to think long term, you break the cycle of always feeling broke and instead position yourself to build real, lasting wealth. One of the biggest traps that keeps people broke is debt, and specifically the wrong kind of debt that doesn't build anything of value. The problem is that debt creates the illusion of affordability while locking you into a cycle of payments that eat away at your income month after month. Credit cards, payday loans, buy now, pay later programs, and even car loans often promise convenience and flexibility, but in reality, they become chains that keep you working just to cover interest and minimum payments. The real danger is not just the money you owe, but the way debt steals your future earnings. Every dollar you send to pay off interest is a dollar you can't invest, can't save, and can't use to build wealth. Over time, this leaves you trapped in a situation where even if your income grows, your obligations grow alongside it, leaving you with no breathing room. Debt also creates a psychological burden, stress, anxiety, and the constant feeling of being behind. That makes it harder to focus on opportunities to actually improve your financial situation. The solution is to first recognize the difference between bad debt and productive debt. Bad debt is any borrowing that funds consumption or depreciating assets. Things like credit card purchases, luxury items, or cars that lose value the second you drive them off the lot. Productive debt, on the other hand, is borrowing that has the potential to increase your future earning power, like taking out a reasonable student loan for a degree that leads to higher income, or a carefully structured mortgage on a property that produces rental income. Once you identify the bad debt, the goal is to eliminate it aggressively. This means creating a debt repayment strategy, whether it's the snowball method, where you focus on paying off the smallest balances first for quick wins, or the avalanche method, where you attack the highest interest rates first to save the most money over time. At the same time, you commit to not adding any new debt by changing your spending habits, building a small emergency fund to avoid relying on credit cards, and shifting toward a cash first or debit first approach. By taking these steps, you gradually free up more of your income, reduce financial stress, and redirect that money into wealth-building activities instead of sending it to lenders. For example, imagine someone has $7,000 in credit card debt spread across 3 cards with interest rates ranging from 18% to 25%. They're paying $300 a month in minimum payments, but the balance hardly moves because most of that goes toward interest. If they keep doing this, they'll be stuck in debt for years and pay thousands more than they originally borrowed. Now, let's say they decide to get serious about breaking the cycle. They cut unnecessary expenses, pick up a side hustle, and free up an extra $500 a month. Using the avalanche method, they throw that $500 on the highest interest card while paying minimums on the others. Within a year, the first card is gone, freeing up even more cash flow. Over the next 2 years, the rest of the debt is eliminated. Instead of spending $300 every month on interest payments, they now redirect that money into an investment account. If they continue putting $800 a month, the $300 they were wasting plus the $500 they freed up into investments earning 8%, in 10 years they would have over $145,000. The difference between being trapped in bad debt and building 6 figures of wealth is not luck. It's making the decision to stop letting debt control your money and start using your money to control your future. Another major reason people stay broke is the confusion between spending for status and spending for freedom. The problem comes when people use money as a way to show others they're successful rather than using it to create actual success. Buying luxury clothes, flashy cars, expensive dinners, or the latest gadgets might look impressive to friends or social media followers, but those purchases don't build anything long-term. They drain your bank account and trap you in a cycle of constantly trying to keep up appearances. This is often fueled by comparison. When you see someone else upgrading their lifestyle, it triggers the urge to do the same so you don't feel left behind. The issue is that the satisfaction from status purchases fades quickly, but the financial consequences linger. You end up with less money for savings, no investments, and no financial security, all while looking like you're doing well on the outside. The reality is, many people who appear wealthy are actually broke behind the scenes, buried in debt, and stressed about money. This obsession with image over substance is one of the biggest obstacles to true financial freedom. The solution is to shift your focus from spending money to impress others toward using money as a tool to buy back your time and independence. Instead of chasing temporary validation, you invest in assets that grow and provide income, whether it's stocks, real estate, or a business. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy nice things, but the priority becomes building a strong financial foundation first. One way to make this shift is to redefine what wealth means to you. True wealth isn't the car you drive or the shoes you wear. It's waking up without financial stress, having the flexibility to spend your time how you want, and knowing your money is working for you. To build this, you have to delay gratification and understand that freedom is worth far more than status. Every dollar you don't spend on showing off can be redirected into investments that give you options later. Over time, as those investments grow, you reach a point where you can enjoy luxuries guilt-free because they're funded by passive income rather than draining your paycheck. For example, let's look at two people who both make $80 a year. Person spends $600 a month leasing a luxury car, $300 on designer clothes, and $200 on upscale dining every week to keep up appearances. At the end of the year, they've spent over $13,000 on status symbols, leaving them with little savings and a feeling of constant financial pressure. Person B takes a different approach. They drive a reliable used car, limit expensive shopping, and choose affordable dining most of the time. Instead of chasing image, they invest that same $13,000 into index funds. After 10 years at an 8% average return, that money grows to almost $28,000. In 20 years, it's worth over $60,000. While Person A is still stuck on the treadmill of working to fund appearances, Person B has built a financial cushion that gives them real options. This simple difference in mindset, choosing freedom over status, decides who stays broke and who moves toward financial independence. Spending for status is temporary, but spending for freedom builds a future where you control your life instead of being controlled by financial obligations. The real shift that determines whether you stay broke or start building lasting wealth in 2025 is your ability to change how you use money altogether. The problem is that most people keep doing the same things they've always done, expecting different results. They spend without a plan, save only what's left over at the end of the month, and invest inconsistently, if at all. This approach guarantees stagnation because money without direction disappears quickly. People often say they'll start saving or investing when they make more. But when that day comes, lifestyle inflation eats up the raise, emergencies pop up, or spending habits take priority. The result is that year after year, they work hard but don't move closer to financial independence. This cycle is especially dangerous in 2025, when inflation, rising living costs, and economic uncertainty make it harder than ever to get ahead if you're not intentional with your money. Without a clear shift in mindset and habits, people remain trapped, working for money instead of having money work for them. The solution is to adopt a proactive financial system that automates your wealth building. Instead of leaving money management to chance, you create a structure that forces you to prioritize savings and investments before spending. This starts with paying yourself first, automating a percentage of your income to go directly into investment accounts or savings the moment you're paid. By doing this, you guarantee that wealth building comes before lifestyle choices. Next, you set clear financial goals for the year, such as building a 6-month emergency fund, maxing out a retirement account, or investing a set amount each month. Once those goals are defined, you align your spending with them, cutting out purchases that don't serve your future. This creates a shift from reactive money habits to intentional money habits. Over time, this consistency builds momentum, and you begin to see results not just in your bank account, but in your sense of control and confidence. The shift also requires focusing on long-term compounding instead of short-term gratification. By choosing to invest consistently, even small amounts, you harness the power of compounding, where your money grows on top of itself year after year. For example, imagine two people making $70 a year. Person spends freely, saving only what's left over, which is usually very little. They start each year with the hope of saving more but end up repeating the same cycle of overspending. 10 years later, they've barely built any savings and feel stuck in the same financial situation as before. Person B, however, decides to make the shift in 2025. They automate 20% of their income, or $14,000 a year, directly into investments at an 8% average annual return. After 10 years, they've built a portfolio worth over $200,000. In 20 years, it grows to over $500,000. The difference is not that person B earned more, but that they shifted their approach from passive to intentional, from hoping to planning. That one decision to automate wealth building transforms their future, while person A remains stuck working paycheck to paycheck. This is the exact kind of shift people need to make in 2025 if they want to stop staying broke and finally take control of their financial destiny. So let's quickly recap. First, we talked about hidden money leaks and how small, unnoticed expenses drain your wealth. Then we covered lifestyle inflation and why making more money won't help if you keep upgrading your lifestyle. Third, we broke down the mindset shift you need to stop seeing money as something to spend and start treating it as a tool. Fourth, we looked at how bad debt keeps you trapped and how to escape it. Fifth, we exposed the difference between spending for status versus spending for freedom. And finally, we went over the one big shift you must make in 2025 to start building lasting wealth. If you found this helpful, make sure to hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment down below sharing the one financial habit you're going to change this year. And don't miss the next video, where I'll be breaking down the exact investments to make in 2025 that can help you build wealth faster than you think. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.